Welcome back into another episode of the Believe in Georgia Tech podcast. I'm your co-host Jackson Caudell. No RJ today. It's a solo pod from Boston. I was at the game. Took me a little bit to get home, so schedule's a little bit wonky. But I appreciate you guys coming in, joining us after a win, 9-1 now, and everything is still in front of Georgia Tech. They're one win away from an ACC championship berth, their first one since 2014. This was absolutely far from the prettiest win. Still a lot of defensive issues to talk about, but a win's a win. We're going to start with the good stuff. But before we do that, if you guys are watching this, haven't subscribed to the channel, would love it if you do so. Like the video, hit that notification bell so you know when new content goes live. Helps us out a lot. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And internet situation is not the best. So if audio is bad or if I'm lagging a little bit, huge apologies. I mean, y'all know how it is on some of these instant reactions when I'm off in different places. But so again, we'll start off with the good stuff. Georgia Tech got the win, 9-1. Haynes King was terrific. Again, the offense was largely really good. There's some red zone stuff I think we still got to talk about that they're still not doing super well, especially in the early going. He had a turnover. You had a couple of self-inflicting mistakes, and that's something obviously there's a whole lot to talk about with the defense. But always we break it down drive by drive and kind of then get into the big picture stuff at the end. So, look, this game we've talked about in the past whenever like Georgia Tech has that like they're one of the top offenses in the country. Like nobody is going to deny that at all. And the keys we talk about when they're facing some of these defenses that rank where they rank, Syracuse, even in like NC State's defense is pretty poor. Like what's the one thing, like the things you can't do is self-inflicting mistakes, whether that is penalties, whether that's turnovers, whether it's allowing pressure and having negative plays, havoc plays. Like you can't have that. And that was apparent from the first drive. Haynes started out 4 for 4, was in a rhythm, hit Jamal on a couple of easy throws. They get a little bit past midfield. They give up a sack, which is obviously not a it's not happen that's an occurrence that doesn't happen very much. And then you had a false start penalty on the offensive line, backs them up, and then that pretty much killed the drive. Like they were done after that. Have to punt it away, and the defense was bad all game, especially in the second half. The thing that hurt them early on was, they were just big chunk plays. Like, down to down, they weren't like just the worst, but then just these explosive plays. Boston College hits a 57-yarder to get down the field pretty easy. They actually get into Georgia Tech territory. They end up punting. There were some real weird decisions by Bill O'Brien in this game. Like being a former NFL head coach, like that's kind of what you would expect. Like they just see the game a little bit differently as far as game management perspective, and I just disagree with some of those decisions. But they end up punting away. Georgia ends up going pretty easily down the field. Next drive it was a big drive from Malachi Hosley. Ends up getting on. You had a big catch from Isaiah Canyon on third down. Kind of, I won't say a six catch, but it was very good. 7 plays, 83 yards, 3:36 off the clock. That actually took up the entire first quarter. Like, most of the time Georgia Tech's drives are going to be time consuming, and they're not a quick tempo team. Go into the second quarter, Boston College second drive. They hit a big 42-yard run, got down to the goal line, had a 4th and goal. They end up getting it pretty easily. Like, Georgia Tech, it wasn't like the Duke game where, they bowed up and kept them out of there completely. Like they get the touchdown on 4th and goal, 11 plays, 75-yard drive, took 5:40 off the clock. Started their Georgia Tech's third drive here, middle of the second quarter. Haynes King hits a huge 48-yard completion to Eric Rivers, who him and Malik Rutherford were both quite good in this game. First time since I believe 2005 that Georgia Tech had a pair of 100-yard receivers in a game. So he hits a big 48-yard completion to Rivers, and then on the very next play, Trelane Maddox fumbles. We've talked about Trelane on the show. He's talented. He has a body type that Georgia Tech loves at running back. Like they want a big physical back to go along with some of their other guys. And, he's been banged up. Love his talent still. I don't think he carried the ball the rest of the game. He finished with 2 carries for 3 yards. And that was just a huge momentum killer. One of the better drives of the game for the defense. They force a 3 and out. Tech gets the ball back, and then 4 plays, 84 yards. Only took a minute 58 off the clock. Obviously, that was a big Malik Rutherford drive. 71-yard touchdown catch. That was his biggest play of the game. This was arguably his best game of the season, I would say, for Malik. Like, I think he was really consistently good in and out. Boston College actually drove down the field on Georgia Tech on the next drive, but they had an illegal hands to the face penalty, or they didn't, but Georgia Tech did, that kept the drive alive. There was actually, and it was a third down play. Boston College picks it up, but there was an illegal touching penalty, but there was also targeting called on Tay Harris. The targeting was overturned, and then the illegal touching penalty was upheld. It was a loss of down. They ended up getting backed up enough to where they had to punt. Georgia Tech stalled out, couldn't get a touchdown on the next drive, had to punt the ball away. They pinned Boston College deep. Marshall Nichols was actually really good in this game from a special teams perspective. They had him pinned deep. It looked like, hey, if you can just force a quick 3 and out, you'll get the ball back in good field position. You're going to be able to put a touchdown up before the half, go up 2 scores. But what happens? 10 plays, 93-yard drive, ended up with a touchdown, 14-14. Boston College had a penalty, an unsportsmanlike penalty. I believe it was on the extra point because they got backed up a lot, and Georgia Tech got the ball in really favorable position. Looked like they were going to get a field goal. It was the only miss of the day for Aiden Burr, 49 yards, going to halftime 14-14. And it was, again, just offensively, you had self-defeating mistakes that kept you from putting a bigger number up. You had the fumble, you had the sack and the false start. It just didn't finish other drives. Like, it was just very inconsistent. You saw the best of what Georgia Tech's offense is, and then you saw how inconsistent it can be at other times. They ended up with 316 yards first half, 9.9 yards per play. King was, he was dealing. Heisman candidate and all that good stuff. 13-15, 224 yards passing. They only had 92 yards rushing on 17 carries. It was a fine first half, but outside of Malachi Hosley, there just wasn't a lot there. They were averaging around 5.4 yards per carry. Again, Malik, 4 catches, 106 yards. The bulk of that came on the 71-yard touchdown. Rivers, 3 for 73. But the defense was just 268 total yards given up, 7.2 yards per play. Dylan Larnigan, who is talented. Like, I think everybody remembers, he's from the state of Georgia, high school recruit. He went to Alabama, transferred over to Boston College. Like, he has talent. He's had a bit of a turnover problem at times this year, though. He was 14-21, 191 yards in the first half. So the worst quarter by far of the game was the third quarter. So Boston College gets the ball to start the second half. They go on a 7-play, 75-yard touchdown drive that took 2:55 off the clock. 37-yard run on 4th and short. Just big chunk plays that were given up. And Boston College is one of the worst rushing teams in the country. I think they they came into this game 128th in rushing offense, and that's just not good. They've not had a good running attack all year, but they were able to get nearly 200 yards today. Tech gets the ball back. They take nearly 8 minutes off the clock, go 55 yards. But again, you got to the red zone and you couldn't finish. And Aiden Burr made the field goal to cut it to 21-17. But in this game where it felt like it was trending, you had to get touchdowns, and that was a missed opportunity. Boston College goes right back, 6 plays, 75 yards, just barely took 3 minutes off the clock. Lonergan hits a touchdown pass. It looked like the game may have been over at that point. It was 28-17. All the momentum was with Boston College. Georgia Tech could not get a stop on the defensive side of the football. They were doing, just kind of enough to skate by. I won't say just enough, but when you take 8 minutes off the clock in your only drive of the quarter, your main drive of the quarter, and you only come away with 3, and then you're giving the ball back, and then they're scoring in 2 to 3 minutes like that. It's just very disheartening, especially when you were coming off a bye week and you're facing a 1-9 football team. But the fourth quarter was the money quarter. It was, whether it was Haynes, the defense made some big stops. They get the ball back, 10 play, 66-yard drive, 2:27 off the clock. Haynes did have a third down throw where it initially from the press box, it did look like he was over the line. I don't think his full body was, though. So from when I watched the replay the couple times I've seen it since, I think it was the right call. Bill O'Brien went ballistic on the sideline. He got a penalty. They got into field goal, got into scoring range, and it was, again, settling for the field goal. I didn't hate this one, though, because you went from a 2-possession game to a 1-possession game. Like, I thought it was the right call. Cut the lead to 28-20. The defense actually forced a punt and gave the ball back to the offense. They go 9 plays, 78 yards, 3:47 off the clock. You had a big 35-yard catch for Eric Rivers that put him over 100 yards for the day. It was a great catch, great throw and catch from King to Rivers, and it was just well designed all around. Haynes runs it in for a touchdown. The second half, mainly the fourth quarter, he was pretty good running the football, but for a large portion of the game, it wasn't working a lot of the time. They did go for 2, obviously, to try to tie it up. I don't know. We've talked. Look, I've mentioned this before. I think Buster Faulkner is probably one of the 3 or 4 best offensive coordinators in the entire country. Sometimes in short yardage or on these 2-point plays or in goal line situations, he has some calls every now and then that I just vehemently disagree with, and this was one of them. I don't know what. I just thought it got too cute. I thought you were moving the ball pretty well. I thought, like, just keep it. I won't say keep it simple, but like run something that works. Like, I just thought they got cute with it, and I think that can pop up from time to time. I won't say it's been a theme, but it pops up every now and then. Defense actually forced a 3-and-out on the next drive. Got the ball back, and then all it took was one play. Jordan Allen, who was pretty good in this game overall, we've seen him flash a lot over the season. 54-yard touchdown run. Georgia Tech finally gets the first lead back since it was 14-7, 33-28. And it looked like they were about to put the game away with a third straight defensive stop. They have Boston College backed up. Akilo Stone gets a sack. It's 3rd and 19, backed up deep in their own territory, and they give up a 30-yard pass play. And like, I was thinking in my head, like, if that is how Georgia Tech loses this game and their dream season goes up in smoke because of that, like, that is just terrible. Like, it can't happen. I don't know any other way to put it. Like, you cannot have a breakdown like that. Then they break off a 43-yard touchdown run. Again, another big explosive play. And look, Georgia Tech was on, like, it was 34-33. They went for 2. It looked like he got it at first. I thought he caught it, but it ended up being incomplete. So it's 34-33. And then the game-ending drive was just awesome. Like, there's nothing else I can say. Like, it was just, you had arguably the best quarterback in college football leading them down the field, getting them into field goal range. So there was a situation where it was 3rd and short. Haynes runs it, and it, from, again, the press box view that I had, which was far, it looked like he got it. And I think the official closest to Brent Key, I don't know if he signaled for it. From the post-game explanation, is Key thought that they had a first down, which is why he called a timeout with 14 seconds left, because I was really puzzled when I saw it was 4th down and he called that, instead of just winding it all the way down and giving Boston College, even though, like, again, it's a very, very remote chance, but this is college football we're talking about. Like, you don't want to give anybody a chance to do anything. So Aiden Bird nails the field goal. Boston College gets it back, get a couple of completions. They did get into they had a chance at a Hail Mary, didn't work. It was the end of the game, and, like, it was just a huge sigh of relief. They're 9-1, one win away from the ACC championship game. But look, next week's game is obviously a little bit worrisome. I guess we'll kind of preview that. Again, Georgia Tech's going to be favored. I assume it's going to be a night game. Don't quote me on that, but I think you're probably going to get that. Before today, Pitt's offense was on fire. I mean, they were just toasting defense after defense. Notre Dame is just obviously a completely different level than anybody they played this year, and Georgia Tech and Notre Dame defensively are on, like, different planets. So it's a game that I think it has shootout written all over it. We'll see, but I think some of the defensive issues, look, it's the lack of pressure. It's just, again, like we talked about at the NC State game, like, they could never force CJ Bailey in that game off rhythm and force him to make difficult throws. Like, that was the same a lot of the time for Dylan Lonergan, who is fine, but like I don't think he's an NFL player. He was benched earlier this year for another quarterback that I don't think is any good in Grayson James. So, look, there's just a lot of issues with the defense right now. I think tackling is poor. I think run fits are pretty poor. I think just all around. And this was you got Jai Gilmore. He was one of the guys who got back in this game. I didn't see Amari Harvey out there. I don't think I saw Savion Riley. Again, don't quote me on that. If they were in there, it wasn't for very long. Just a lot of breakdowns, obviously, on that side of the ball. It was just it was just terrible all game long. So just to kind of finish up, getting into the stats, I mean, Georgia Tech finished with 628 yards total offense, 371 passing yards from Haynes King, 26 of 34 for him, 177 passer rating. He also ended up with 53 yards on 15 carries. Again, the running game was pretty solid. You had the big run from Jordan Allen on the sweep. You had Malachi Hosley in the first half was pretty good. You had a couple of nice outside runs from Malik Rutherford. Jamal Haynes was pretty ineffective all game. He also had a wide open touchdown drop that I forgot to mention. Now, the ball was a little bit short. Like, it could have been a slightly better throw from Haynes, but again, it just a missed opportunity. But receivers, very good day for Eric Rivers, Malik Rutherford, 7 catches, 119 yards for Rivers, 5 catches, 121 yards for Rutherford. You had a 48-yarder from Rivers. You had a 71-yarder from Rutherford. You had a 35-yard catch for Malachi Hosley, 16-yarder for Isaiah Canyon, 17-yarder for Jordan Allen. Like, you had a lot of big plays from the receivers, and like it's just spread the ball around. You have playmakers, and they did a really good job of that. 7 of 12 on third down, 8.3 yards per play, 14.3 yards per completion, 4 for 4 in the red zone. Again, you settle in for field goals a couple times. Like I talked about the misplay from Jamal. Just again, some of the red zone stuff just again has to be fixed, especially. Unfortunately, I think you're going to need to score an awful lot next week. Hopefully the defense can get some adjustments, but I think you're going to have to score plenty of points in that game. Had a couple fumbles, only one loss with the Trelane Maddox one earlier in the game. I'll read through the defensive stats and try not to throw up in the process of doing so. Boston College, 537 yards of total offense. That was their most all year. I think they haven't had a game like this offensively since they had a pretty good game. I forget the total yardage number. It was the second game of the season against Michigan State. They almost won that game. 362 passing yards for Lonergan, 26 of 40. He had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And again, this was a guy that got benched. And again, he has some talent, but like he was just way too comfortable all game. 175 yards on 26 carries. I mean, Boston College, again, 128 in rushing offense, and they averaged 6.7 yards per carry. Obviously, he had a 43-yard run in there, but it was just not a good day for the run defense. BC had 8.1 yards per play, 13.9 yards per completion, 6.7 yards per rush. They were also 4 for 4 in the red zone. 3 tackles for loss. You had the 1 sack by Kilo Stone, but it was just a bad day all around. Like, Georgia Tech had over 600 yards of offense, and they nearly lost to a 1-9 team. Like that, I think that should say it all. But we'll see what they can do going forward. It's a 1-game season now. Like, as much as everybody wants to, the Georgia game is bigger from just a rivalry perspective and just what it may mean to everybody personally. Like, next week's game is arguably the biggest Georgia Tech game in like a decade. It's you win this game, and it doesn't, like, obviously everybody wants to beat Georgia, and like that would be just a landmark win, especially if you beat Pitt. But you win this game, and then you are 1 win away from the college football playoff. No matter what you think about Georgia Tech, whether, some of the close calls, if you think they've had an easy schedule, blah, 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 all that stuff that, you're going to hear from a lot of people. You're 1 win away from the college football playoff. And from the way it looks, you're probably going to face Virginia in that game. They utterly destroyed Duke today. They're off next week, and then they face Virginia Tech. Don't quote me on this, but I know Georgia Tech is in if they win. I think if Virginia beats Virginia Tech, it'll be Georgia Tech, Virginia in the ACC championship. So, again, it's just a massive game. Pitt's a pretty good team. They made the switch to their freshman quarterback and have been really good. Today aside, I mean, Notre Dame is just on a completely different plane than them. Notre Dame's a very good football team, probable playoff team. We'll see how that all shakes out, but they're going to be hungry to come in and win because they're still very much alive in the ACC race as well. They play obviously Tech next week in Atlanta, and then they host Miami to end the season. And Miami has looked pretty good these past couple of weeks, but I don't think anybody is going to say they're unbeatable given some of their losses. So win's a win. All wins are good, at least most of the time. And again, this is going to set up just a massive game next weekend. Hope everybody's able to come out. We'll see what time that game ends up being, but that's going to wrap it up for me today. Again, sorry for the wonky schedule. We've been traveling. RJ is obviously a full-time student, has some different stuff going on, so we've been a little bit off schedule. So appreciate everybody for staying with us, tuning in. I will be back next week to talk playoff rankings, obviously give a Pitt preview. And just before you get out of here, if you subscribe to the channel, like the video, follow us wherever you get your podcast, would mean a lot. Let us know what you think about the game, as always, below. We love hearing what you guys think, and just maybe we differ on some things. Just love hearing you guys' thoughts on the game. And if I missed anything, apologies. These instant reactions just rattling a lot of stuff off the top of your head. So we'll talk about anything we missed next week, and obviously we'll get RJ's opinion when he's able to join us next time. But appreciate you guys, and I will catch you next week.